Hey G fans, GojiFan93 here, and welcome back to our reviews of the Skull Island Netflix series. We are on the final episode. We have made it to the series finale. Episode 8, where everything comes together, and it's just another awesome monster brawl. So, again, like we've been doing, we're going to talk about our thoughts at first, and then we'll go through the plot, and then give our ratings at the end. So, yeah, this final episode was great. I mean, I think it ended well, except for one thing that I will say. The ending was a bit abrupt, I will say, and they definitely left it on a cliffhanger. So we'll get to the cliffhanger when we talk about the plot details, because I don't want to go too far into that yet. But all I'll say is that I hope there will be a season 2, because there's still some things that are actually left unanswered. So, but overall, though, in terms of a climax, I think it was pretty good. So not too bad. All right.
I'm not a big fan of this episode. The only thing I actually like about this episode is legit like the fight between the Kraken. I do love the Kraken design. It's very unique, and I love how big the Kraken is. Like how it was over Kong
Mm-hmm.
makes him look tiny,
Oh yeah.
even though it's like a 200-foot Kong. But yeah, and I don't know how I feel about this episode. The episode doesn't. It's pretty forgettable out of the previous episodes. I just not a big fan of this episode. It's just boring as hell and bland. It's compared to the last episode, yeah, it's a big letdown. I am excited for season 2 if they decide to do that. I will give it a chance for season 2, but yeah, they could have done better with the finale.
I love this episode. Honestly, yeah, I loved it. Yeah, the battle between Kong and the Kraken, yeah, it was probably one of the best things in this series. Yeah, the Kraken, yeah, it looks pretty awesome. Also scary, especially in I think it was a scene like it drags Kong on the water,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like I think its eyes was like glowing, giving it like a scary look.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the characters, I will say not a lot happened with them, although I felt like it wasn't really all that bad. Yeah, I will say that the ending is pretty abrupt. Although I do like the fact that Annie basically returns to, I guess, America, if I have to assume that.
Right.
And I do love how she's practically shocked now into civilization.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I thought this episode was pretty great.
I definitely really like this episode. I really love the battle between Kong and the Kraken, and also the Kraken. I really like the design of it. When I look at the design, it kind of looks like a mix between the the original Clash of the Titans Kraken, and also mixed with Cthulhu a bit.
That's what I got. I
design
got
looks
Cthulhu vibes from it.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, it really does. I'm glad. I will say this. I'm glad they didn't with making it just a generic octopus, because I really
Right.
just was hoping it wouldn't be that, because that just would be disappointing and just bland. Not to mention, back then the Kraken was just a giant octopus, and that was just generic.
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's nice that
I
they
just
gave it
prefer
a
I just prefer the Kraken to be unique and not like just some generic octopus.
Mhm.
Almost forgot to say also
Oh.
the ending. I will say the ending kind of makes me think there's probably gonna be a season 2 probably.
Right.
I was
Audio.
gonna say that I thought this episode was actually pretty good, though I wouldn't say this one was a favorite of mine, but I thought it was actually pretty decent with everything it did. But I'm gonna have to agree with you about how this episode kind of ended. It did feel a little bit rushed and a bit abrupt,
Right.
like. Just like what Reader said, where basically you see Annie waking up from the hospital and then finding out that she's now in modern civilization, basically in a city now, possibly America or wherever it's actually meant to be taking place. Which it does at least get me excited to see what could happen if there's like another season for this show. Though, if they don't continue upon it and this is just where it is, I would say it might have been an interesting note to end it on, but it also feels maybe just a little disappointing and also just a little bit rushed that they already went to it that quickly.
Mhm.
At least in my opinion, that's how I feel about this.
Let's talk about the plot itself. So yeah, we basically start back, literally taking place right after the last episode, where Charlie is talking about the plan, and everyone is all skeptical about it, although Annie's totally for it. And really the good thing about this episode is that there's really no more character development to be done. I mean, really, we know these characters, we know what they're going through. Basically, their plan now is just to get off the island. They need to grab Mike, save him. I like how Charlie is taking like initiative though. One thing that I will say is I love how Charlie has obviously had a character arc. Like from the beginning, he didn't seem to be doing much. We were kind of worried that he was, at least to some people, in my opinion, he was sort of annoying at the beginning, but then throughout these episodes, I learned to like really like him because he did start to take initiative. He got more brave. He got some courage to like do some, like really cool things, like interact, like partnering up with Dog, which was a really cool thing. And then just coming up with this crazy plan is pretty ballsy too. So that's nice. And of course his dad doesn't want him to do the plan, but Annie's like, yeah, let's go. The mom is also, I mean, the parents are on the same side. They're like, we don't want you guys to do this. There has to be a better plan. But the kids are like, no, we got to do this because basically Mike is dying. So we get the little logo again. Of course, it makes sense that this would be the actual Kraken's, like,
it kind of looks like a smiley face, to be honest.
Well, yeah, if you have to turn your head, yes.
Yeah.
Smiley face. Okay.
Yeah. So there is again, they just have some small talk, really, just more little funny character dialogue here. One of the lines I did like in this where he was like, oh yeah, no, Mike would do the same for me, and then Mike goes like, actually no, I wouldn't, and then he goes, so I thought that was really fun how funny how he said that. So yeah, and then again, more character drama between the mom here and Annie, but she, of course she's not going to stop her. So the dad finally just accepts that, yeah, he can't stop Charlie. So they go off. The one thing that was sad about this though is that they didn't do anything else to develop these two in terms of like a relationship after I thought they were sort of building up some sort of like love romance going on between these two, but then it just kind of flatlines in this episode. It's not really existent here. And again,
Chris,
it's
we gotta see the big monkey.
well, yeah, but you can still have a romance in it. Good lord. So, all right. So they go. I really, this was actually really cool. I like how the mom was like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And then it just cuts to her crying on the guy's shoulder. I thought that was really cool too, because that's like, you don't really see a lot of characters in shows like this that have like vulnerability like that, and it just makes her so much more human. Like, I really like how this mom character started out as someone where you didn't really trust. You think she was like out to kill Annie, but then turned out to be like this very sympathetic mother that was just trying to protect her kid that had a lot of regrets. Like that, I thought that her character was done very well. All right, they go into Kong's home and they wake up Kong and they piss him off and they make him chase him, which I thought was really cool. All right, so they're chasing. One thing that was interesting here is I guess Dog got a little injured or something, so Charlie's like, the dog's not used to having two people ride him, so I'm just gonna fly off the back and then you go. So now it's just Annie and Dog running towards the beach area so that they can see. There's the other flare gun. So maybe there's multiple flare guns. I don't know. All right, and then Kong sees the Kraken, and then Annie kind of pisses Kong off because she like throws the necklace on the beach. So that might not have been a smart idea, but so he doesn't like that. But then of course the Kraken finally shows up, grabs him with his tentacles, and then brings him in, and they start the kaiju fight. This is the big battle that we were all waiting for. And let me see if I can get a good image of the Kraken himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Kraken design was really cool. I like how this is not a generic looking Kraken like we talked about. It's not just this generic octopus thing or like this generic Cthulhu looking like thing. It takes a lot of inspirations from different types of monsters, I think. I mean, you got like big lobster looking claws, octopus tentacles. Again, it's something that you have to see. I can't really describe it to you about this battle. It's just back and forth. Although the Kraken is like super tough at the beginning. I mean, he's like way tough and giving Kong an issue. We do cut back to the dad trying to find his son, but then gets interrupted by the centipede looking thing. And I thought it was hilarious. He like grabs out a little knife and he's like, "I'm gonna take you out with a knife." It's like, no, you're not. Mike shows up out of nowhere and shoots the flare gun and faints on the ground. And not gonna lie, this is the last time we see these two characters. That's it. This is the last scene.
I have a feeling that Mike did not survive this.
Well, that's what's weird. Yeah, so it's the last time we see them. We cut back to the monster fight, and the one thing that I that I noticed that this was a lengthy fight. I mean, this was like probably 75% of the episode was just dedicated towards the fight. Oh, I forgot. We did get this scene where Charlie gets wrapped up by a trap. Again, last time we see this guy and also the villager guys pop up again. So we don't get an answer to what's going to happen to Charlie here. So I thought that was kind of weird. So we get a bit of an underwater battle, which is cool. I mean, those are always kind of a special thing in kaiju fights, is seeing monsters fight underwater. And then, Kong just goes to town on his face with the boat, starts impaling him, or starts smashing on his face. Again, the thing with the Monsterverse, they always do brutal monster fights well. Like, that is something I really love, is just how brutal some of these attacks are. And so that's the first fake out, I think. There's like two fake outs, right? With the Kraken. It was like, that was the first one. And then he thinks everything's good. And then I thought this was so sweet. Like, Dog is struggling in the water, and Annie's like, come on, you can do it. And then Kong's like, oh, I can save this one. And, because he has a flashback, obviously, to, the native girl dying. So he's like, okay, I'm going to save this one. Ends up saving Dog. They get reunited. Then we have the Kraken's not dead yet. Although I knew this from this point. I knew that was the first fake out. I didn't know that they were going to do another fake out. So Kong grabs him, puts him up against a rock, and starts beating the living crap out of him. Blood starts flying everywhere. I thought this was it. Like, I thought, okay, the Kraken's definitely dead now. Kong's doing his roar on the cliffside, and, that was pretty cool. But then, of course, the Kraken wakes up like one more time, scratches him on the eye, and then then Kong's like, all right, I'm done with you. And then, boom, fatality.
I'm sick of your shit.
Yeah.
He ripped him in half.
Yeah, rips him in half. I'm going to see if I can try and get this image here. Rips him in half and then throws him like the dolphin.
Can he throw him a little bit farther and not into the water and almost kill
Kong doesn't give
Annie?
a fuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, he almost killed. He almost killed him, but and this is actually
does Dog even survive this? Like,
well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So we're getting to the point where it's like the end of the episode, and they get flooded, and Annie hits a rock, and then she wakes up in a hospital. Her mom's there, and then now she's in the city. She realizes, how long have I been out? She says 2 weeks, and then she wakes up and she's in the city, and then it cuts, and it's it. And so it's like, excuse me, there's a lot that needs, like, what happened to Kong? What happened to Dog? Charlie, Mike, and his dad? Like, what happened? Like, where are they still on the island? Like, what happened here? So I would hope that there's a season 2, because if this is it, if there's nothing else after this brings it down heavily for me, because it's like, we needed one more episode then, or something. Like, there still need to be something with that. So
out of 10, I'll be generous. It's not. It's middle of the road for me. It's not a big fan of this episode compared to the previous episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably say 9 out of 10. Honestly, I feel like the ending kind of. I won't say it's like bad. It's just the abruptness about it. It's just
Right.
I would say it was kind of rushed a little bit.
If there's a season 2.
If they do make a season 2. If they don't, then this will be like one of those shows, like a lot of people want a season 2, but it's never gonna get made. Overall, my thoughts about this episode, I would give it I'll probably go for a 7.
I did really enjoy this episode. The only thing I will say that's bad about it is just the ending, where it's just like ended on this cliffhanger and it's just not explained.
Mhm.
So, but if I would have to rate it, I probably would say I would give it a 10 out of 10, but I would have to give it a 9 out of 10. That's all I can give it.
For me, it's really just that abrupt ending that sort of was a little bit weird to me. I was just like, oh, okay, wow, that ended. All right, that's it. Okay. I'd probably say maybe an 8 out of 10, because again, if they don't do a season 2, this is very damaging to the show. Like, you can't just do that and then leave it at that. Like, you have to explain something. So I would say an 8 out of 10 for it overall.
I got Niels' rating. He said 7 out of 10 for him. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Niels is 7 out of 10. Okay. So now we're going to talk about our overall thoughts of the whole show in season one. This will be similar. We're just going to talk about just everyone will go over a little bit of their thoughts on the whole thing, and then probably just a general is it 10 out of 10, or is it something that's like, should you watch it? Should you pass on it if you haven't seen it yet, or yada yada. So, and how does it stack up to the rest of the Monsterverse? Because yes, even though it's a cartoon, I'm still going to stack it up to the rest of the series because it counts. So, we'll start. I'm going to start from the top here because I'm going to go last. So I'm going to start from Acno Goji. Talk about what you thought overall of season one.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was mid to a good average. It's not the best from the Monsterverse, but it's not the worst thing in the Monsterverse. I think that one goes to GPK. But yeah, not sure how I feel about this one. I probably have to rewatch it a couple times to get my full opinion. But so far, the lot of the dialogue is pretty cringy. Like, there are so many times where the dialogue is like really. Episode 7 and 5 are the only ones I actually, which is the one with a dog and Charlie are in. That's episode 5, right?
Yeah, where they have to work together.
Yeah, episode 7 and 5 are the only ones that I actually like. Maybe episode 6 are the ones episode 6 through 7 I like. The rest of the show I honestly don't care about. It's pretty boring. It's not very interesting. It's just not for me.
I think this series was pretty good. Not gonna lie, the first time I heard about it, I was a bit worried. But after watching, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. The story was good. The characters, for the most part, yeah, they were pretty good too. Charlie, I will say Charlie is a bit he's not bad. Just there were moments where like I will say like in the first half of the episodes, not a lot was done for him, but I will say later on he does get like a bit better. The kaiju's, the monsters in this series are also pretty cool.
Yeah,
I will say that the thing that I guess in terms of dialogue, it is a hit or miss for the most part. And yeah, there is that ending, like the abrupt ending. Well, yeah, I will say. Actually, you said you also asked how it stacks like with the Monsterverse movies.
Yeah, like how it stacks up to the rest of the universe.
Well, I will say, it stacks pretty well since, yeah, you do. There is some, I guess, references and even details that that are mostly like found in like other medias. So yeah, I think it stacks pretty well. I guess one last thing I could say is that honestly, this series is literally the original concept for Godzilla versus Sea Monster. I just
Yeah,
say
I know
that.
you've been very adamant about that. You're like, yeah, that's what it is.
Last night I did rewatch all the episodes so I can know so I can have like a fresher mind on the series. And honestly, I would say this show was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was just fine. It's like one of those shows you probably like watch once and then you'll probably watch again if you have nothing else better to do or you have it on in the background. I like the monster designs in this show and I like how they work. Annie, I thought Annie was fun. Honestly, Mike is one of my favorite characters out of this whole show. And for Charlie, we don't talk about him. I don't know. And with Cap, I I I I don't know about him. It's just he seems like a chill dude. But with Irene, I thought she was okay. She was an okay character. She wanted to find her daughter and reconnect her. For Dog, he's not that bad. I'm kind of losing the idea of him being this markable, cute character thing. I'm now just thinking he's just a fun dog animal. So for MH wise, good. Dialogue and characters is a mixed bag, and for monsters is a pretty good up there. For ranking of this show, I will put this at a 7.
I really liked the show. It was pretty good. I did like the characters. I did like the animation. I did like the monsters and all that. I can't wait, and hopefully they do a season 2 for this show because I think it would be really interesting to see what they do with it.
Oh yeah, sorry to interrupt. Just one last thing. And he also just send me his like overall thoughts on the episode. Okay, so this is what he said. When looking at Skull Island as a whole, I would say it's kind of a mixed bag for me. It is a really fun show, though I feel like something went by a bit too quickly, and it could have more time to develop. Definitely not a terrible series, but I'm not sure if I would say it's the best thing the Monsterverse has to offer. For overall score of the series, I would say a solid 7 out of 10. So yeah, that was all Neo's Gamer. And
Okay.
as for my rating, I would say 8 out of 10.
Oh, how would I put it? I probably would say I wouldn't give it really a 10 out of 10, but I probably would give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, the show, when it was first announced, I was very hesitant about it because I just was like, okay, a cartoon spin-off based off the Monsterverse, that doesn't really sound too promising. But and then the trailers came out and I was like, okay, it's looking a little bit better. And I was concerned that it was going to be, I wasn't too thrilled with the art style at first because it just reminded me of 1998, the series, and I just don't like the way that show looks. But
What's the problem with 1988 suits?
a lot.
Good.
So, so this show though, in terms of the art style, I really liked. Actually, there were a lot of beautiful like wallpaper potential for on the show, and I think the characters I liked all. I there were really no characters that I didn't like. I think, I mean, obviously Annie was my favorite. Irene was really good. Cap was good. Mike was really funny in some parts, but I also did really like. I like Charlie. I think Charlie was a great character to follow because he started out as a character that didn't really do much, was maybe a little bit cowardice, but then ended up being a hero at the end. And again, it sucks that we don't really know how his story ends in the show. We have to wait for season 2 to figure that out. So what I also really loved was how they had such a variety of monsters, like different creatures on the island. I thought that was really cool because that keeps in tradition of Skull Island in every single like entry of the Kong movies that have come out over the last since the 30s. But most of the time when they're on Skull Island, they have a variety of all these different creatures that are trying to kill everybody. So and again, Kong himself is fantastic. I continue to be in disbelief how the Monsterverse is getting Godzilla wrong, but continuing to get Kong completely correct. Like they know how to do Kong. It's just Godzilla, they're kind of wishy-washy with him. So go watch my kaiju discussion on that whole deal. This show, with knowing that the ending is so abrupt, it does make me feel that it does bring the show down for me, because if this is it, then okay, it's very mid. It's like, all right, this was a story that didn't really need to be told, because it doesn't expand or give any life to the Monsterverse than what we already have with the movies. But if there is a season 2 and they can continue to develop this, there is potential to make this series something even more, and maybe even potentially having Godzilla cameo in it, which I think would be fantastic to really connect it overall. So it was fine. It was a good show. I was entertained, and I probably will watch it again later down the road, just on like free time or whatnot. So I would say, compared to the whole Monsterverse, like the other movies that we've had, I think it's I would say next to Skull Island, I think it's a great companion piece to the actual movie Kong Skull Island. So I think like after you've watched that movie, then you want to watch this. It's just like a little nice extra little piece of Kong fans. So, or for Kong fans. So I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10 in terms of the whole show on its own. So that's pretty much it for us guys in terms of reviewing the whole series. So we are all hopeful for season 2, and hopefully they can expand and also explain some of the characters' endings in another season, and see how they can further connect the show into the Monsterverse going forward, especially depending on how But when it comes to New Empire, it'll be interesting how whatever happens in that film, how it may affect the future of this show in terms of like how they might set them things up or explain some certain things or whatnot. That is going to do it for our review of Skull Island. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and again, hope to see a season 2 of this show. Until then, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay big, G fans.